In November, we'll be at the Shawn Classic. You need to be there. I'm going to be guest posting, so let's have some fun, all right?
This is Victor Martinez, and you're watching Shawn TV.
Hey guys, Shawn for Shawn TV. I've been getting a lot of text messages, a few phone calls from some of the hardcore people in the industry that want to know my thoughts and my opinion on the take that Phil Heath had in reflection upon losing the title of Mr. Olympia to Shawn Rhoden after winning for 7 consecutive years, a first runner-up and a 4th place finish in his first Olympia. Phil seems to be a little bit baffled and still kind of confused and not really, I guess, in alignment with how or why he lost. It sounded like the sentiment from his interview was that he, even with a big stomach or a bloated stomach, beat Shawn in numerous different poses and has better body parts overall. But maybe what Phil was missing in this storyline is that for years, going all the way back to Dorian Yates in the 90s, the argument was that the big bloated stomachs were no longer in fashion. Arnold Schwarzenegger came out and pretty much issued a referendum saying that they were going to mark people down for the bloated stomachs. I know that Mr. Mannion had mentioned several times that they were going to start knocking people down for having bloated stomachs, and they've done a relatively good job. And of course, last year when Phil had the double hernia, the argument was Phil's stomach, even then in victory, was a little bit too pronounced, too protruding to warrant the 7th place Mr. Olympia. So when he came in for the 8th year to try to tie the record of Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman, the stomach was not improved to the degree that it would meet the standard by which the judges were willing to take the title off of him. It sounded like from his interview that he was baffled and bewildered, but if he knows that his stomach was not up to snuff, he had mentioned that it still wasn't 100%, then he knows why he lost the show. And everything after that is just smoke and mirrors. To talk about having better body parts than Shawn Rhoden or being a better ambassador than Shawn Rhoden, it doesn't negate the fact that the judges were clear that if you leave the door open, it can get slammed in your face. And the message was sent out. They took the title off him. Not only did they take the title off him, but they gave it to a guy who personifies the epitome of a smaller waist. Now, Shawn Rhoden, his waist is not what it used to be either. Don't get me wrong, but it was significantly, vastly improved from the year prior and much better, light years ahead of what Phil brought to the stage only a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas. So let it be known, there's no confusion why Phil Heath lost the Mr. Olympia. He lost because of his stomach. And the judges sent a loud and clear message that if you don't have a tight midsection, if it ain't right, good night. So Phil is no longer the Mr. Olympia as a result of the judges rewarding someone who had fixed a problem that he even had from the previous year. And Phil, in a subpar, sub-conditioned appearance, lost the title. And that's what happens when the champion leaves the door open. Everything else could be in sync. Everything else could be perfect. But if that one body part, the one that the industry has been crying against, is not right, you lose. So I think it would behoove Phil to recognize why he lost and how he lost, rather than take the road that the powers that be made it clear on Friday, that someone had put it out there that he was going to lose. Phil was trailing after Friday night. I said that on record while I was doing the broadcast for iHerb.com, and not a whole lot changed on Saturday. And because of that, he lost the contest. So that's about as black and white as it gets. Phil's a great competitor, a huge representative of the sport. But everything after the fact that my stomach was bloated and I couldn't get it under control, everything else is just noise. So I would appreciate it if Phil would probably just give Shawn the props that, look, you beat me because you had a better midsection. We can all relate to that. And that would be something that we would respect even more than all of the other noises coming out of the Phil Heath camp. If Phil wants to come back and fix his midsection, change his stomach to give us something to brag about, he very well could be Mr. Olympia once again. But in the meantime, a loss is a loss. There's no shame in missing the peak on the day that it matters the most. And like true champions, it's not what happens when you get knocked down. It's what happens when you get back up. And we're going to all be watching Phil Heath to see what he does next. But talking about this in a way that is mystified, there's no mystery. Phil, if you had asked me Friday night, I would have told you you're losing because your stomach is too big, it's too bloated. Do something about it. And no one in your camp told you that Friday night, then shame on those guys. But truth be told, the judges saw what everyone else saw, and the audience responded with a standing ovation for Shawn, not because they wanted you to lose, but because Shawn happened to be the better bodybuilder on the day.